When I was in my 50s, I had an opportunity to take early retirement. About 5 minutes after I took that step, my 10-year relationship with my partner came to an end. It was a perfect storm, the intersection of two major life events. And in its wake, I was home alone, very much alone, 7 days a week, 24/7, there I was. My vision for what retirement from the corporate world would look like was a little hazy. I did have consulting work to do, but the consulting work was sporadic. And what happened was I had lost the rhythm of my life, the cadence, where I would wake up every morning knowing that I had a challenging job to go to, put on my power suit, go to work, and I had good people to work with. I could get feedback, bounce my ideas off people. It was a nice feeling. Now, most of my conversation was with myself, and when I woke up in the morning, my first thought was, I wonder if I have anything to do today. Weekends and evenings I was getting very intimate with the TV guide, and I realized that I had to get out and socialize. Truly a terrifying thought for somebody that's an introvert. But finally I would get myself out into a position to mingle with singles. And what I found was that my double Ds were not magnets. My double Ds being desperation and depression. Well, that wasn't going well, so I thought, well, maybe a better way to do this would be if I tried to meet people doing something that I liked. So I thought, well, I like to golf. I'll go spend more time on the golf course. So I joined the golf club and was out there putting in my time with other people that had lots of spare time. But I thought, well, I can make some friendships this way. However, I found when the conversation shifted from golf to the social interview, is what I would call it, the first question was often, so what kind of work does your husband do? At first I thought, well, that's very presumptive. But after I got the same question a number of times from different people, I thought, maybe this is really a statement about what is required to fit in with this group. I was at a time in my life when I could really do what I wanted, except I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't have anybody to share it with, and perhaps what was worse, that there was nobody in the world that really needed me. Reinventing my life did not happen because I had an epiphany one day on, this is what I should do. It was a series of events that happened over time, over years, a series of events that had unintended consequences. I learned that one of my neighbors had cancer, and he was going for chemotherapy. I knew that he lived on his own, and nobody should have to drive to chemotherapy by themselves. So I phoned him and offered to give him a ride anytime that he wanted one. Eventually, to thank me, he took me for supper, and it developed into a regular, dinner companionship after we made it clear that our intentions were strictly platonic and that we would go Dutch. But that happened years ago. And it has developed into a really nice relationship. In fact, I consider him to be one of my closest friends now, which I never thought that I would end up having one of my closest friends being a man. The next event that came along that really took over my life was I adopted a rescue dog. She was on petfinders.com, and her description said, "This dog has no trust for any human." I discovered that the first year of her life, life. She had lived feral near a remote community in northern British Columbia. And the way that that community managed their overpopulation of dogs was with a gun. Her no trust of humans is what had kept her alive, combined with she had the wily ability to live off the land. Now, I had experience with dogs, and I had trained horses, and I thought, I have a very quiet one-person household, and I'm sure with patience and with time that this dog might forgive us. She became my project, and in fact, she became a sentient being that actually needed me. I learned a lot from that dog, mainly that I really didn't know anything about dogs that had grown up in that situation. To learn more about her, I kept in touch with the rescue association that had rescued her, and I did that through their blog. Every morning, coffee in hand, I would go online, go to their website, and read about the last 24 hours in animal rescue. It was fascinating, and I could tell that there was really interesting backstories behind what went on in the blog. Now, in my previous life, I had been a writer and a publisher, but the topics were really dry and dreary. I was writing about real estate contracts and real estate agency law. The challenge for the writer was to keep the reader awake. And now in front of me, I had stories that had heart and fur and a wet nose. And I immersed myself into research and writing. About this time, there was another coincidence in my life, although this one was much more pleasant than the perfect storm. About this time, Amazon.com was promoting short stories being published on their own, which was possible to do when you're publishing as ebooks. And I found that they had very good tools for publishing ebooks. You didn't have to count color pictures. You could throw in all you wanted. You could even have video attached to your story. It was a whole new adventure. It was a whole new world. And when you were done, just with the click of the mouse, your story had access to a global market. It was really fun. And by the way, if you're wondering whatever happened with that dog that had no trust for humans, when you go to Amazon.com, if you type in my name, it's Nancy Bain. Bain is like brain without the R, Bain. If you type that in, my short stories will come up, and you'll recognize the story right away. It's called The Dog That Couldn't Come Home. You might have seen the poster on the way in. That is her story. Now, of course, now that I was into writing, I was having bouts of writer's block. So some of my friends who were artists in other mediums were following The Artist's Way, which is a book that lays out a program for people that are having some kind of block. And an essential piece of that program is writing a journal. Now, over the years, I thought about writing a journal, but it's one of those things that never just got put into action. But because I had to meet with the group every week and account for what I'd done, I was writing in a journal. And at first it was really hard to fill up those pages. But after a while it was just happening. And then even after the group was over, I was just doing it. And one day I looked back and realized, you know, I've been doing this now for a long time. And what writing in a journal has allowed me to do is to know the friend that would always be with me, which was me. My life has a rhythm to it again. It has a cadence. Every morning by 7 o'clock, I'm out the door, and I'm on my way to the new urban social institution, the dog park. There's a congenial group of people, regulars, that are there every morning, and really I cannot think of a happier way to start the day than to sit around and watch the dogs play. And no one at the dog park has ever asked me, what kind of work does your husband do?